Welcome to the Word in Minutes podcast. I'm your host, Devin Glasgow, and today's episode is about trusting God for real. I put a bit of work into this episode because this one is so hard to live out. And today's scripture is in Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6, and I'll get to that in just a moment. So when we talk about trusting God for real, most people say they trust God, but the moment that life stops making sense, something shifts within us. We start adjusting our plans, or we start overthinking, and we try to carry outcomes that were never ours to control or carry in the first place. And it doesn't usually feel like rebellion in the moment. It really almost feels like responsibility. Like, if I don't handle this, who will? But that's where the tension shows up, and we need to really focus on that. Trust is easy to declare, but it's very hard to demonstrate when you don't know what God is doing or what is behind that door. Now, Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6 says this: "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths." That's not advice, and that's not a poetic encouragement. It's instruction with a promise attached to it. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, not part of it, not the part that feels safe or the part that we already know, all of it. Because partial trust is really just controlled trust. It's trusting God while still keeping a hand on the steering wheel, just in case He needs help navigating your life, right? And if we're honest, a lot of us trust God selectively. We trust Him where we already agree with Him. But the moment He needs or He leads somewhere unfamiliar, we start reconsidering the route. But Scripture doesn't leave room for that. All your heart means nothing is held back. No private backup plans, no silent negotiations, no "God, I trust you, but just in case, I'll also try to do my own thing over here." And then it says, lean not on your own understanding. And that word lean is important. It truly matters. Leaning implies weight, the shift of pressure, dependence. So the instruction is simple and clear here. Stop putting full weight on what you think you understand, because understanding feels strong when life is predictable, but life doesn't stay predictable. There are moments where what made sense maybe last year doesn't even explain what you're walking through this year. And in those moments, understanding starts doing what it was never designed to do. It starts breaking under pressure. And let's be honest, some of us lean too hard on our own understanding. We treat it almost like it's always right, like we've never been wrong. We'll even pray and then immediately override what we just prayed for with our own plan. It's like asking God for direction and then saying, "Thanks, Lord, but I'll take it from here." But God didn't call you to lean on your own logic. He called you to lean on Him. And then it says, in all your ways, acknowledge Him. Not just the big decisions, not just the crisis moments, but in all your ways. That includes your reactions, your emotions, your conversations, your plans you didn't pray about, but still expect our God to bless. Acknowledging God means He's not just involved when things break. He's involved in everything before it breaks. But many people, including myself, treat God like an emergency support line. Something goes wrong and suddenly it's like, "Lord, if you could just step in real quick. God, please draw near and help me." But yes, He can, and God is faithful, but He's not your backup plan. He's your leadership. He's your guide. He is the beginning and the end. Acknowledging Him in all your ways means He's not just invited into your life, He directs your life. Then at the end of that comes the promise, and He shall direct your paths. Not might, not maybe, He shall, He will direct your paths. But notice the order in all of that. Direction comes after trust, not before it. A lot of people want God to show the full plan before they take the first step, but God rarely works that way. He usually gives enough light for the next step, not the full map for the next decade. And if we're honest, even that feels like a stretch sometimes. Because trust feels easier when you can see the outcomes, but faith starts where sight stops. Now, if we shift gears and think about a GPS, when you follow the directions, you get where you're going. When you ignore them, the destination doesn't change, but the route gets longer, more complicated, and a lot more frustrating. And eventually, that GPS just calmly says recalculating or rerouting, like it's not emotionally involved in your decision making at all. That's often what life feels like when we resist God's direction. Not that he stopped leading, but that we keep choosing unnecessary detours. And here's the real issue with all of that. Most people don't reject God's direction out loud. We override it quietly. We agree with him in prayer, but still try to control the outcome behind the scenes. We say we trust him, but we also say, just in case, let me handle this part. But trust and control don't share leadership. One always gives way to the other. Real trust is not just belief in God's ability. Real trust is release. Release of needing to see everything before moving. Release of needing control over outcomes. Release of needing understanding before obedience. Because trust is not proven when life makes sense. Trust is revealed when it doesn't. And if God is directing your path, he doesn't need your help driving it. He just needs your willingness to follow. So the question isn't whether God can lead. The question is whether you're still trying to. So trust in him with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, even when it doesn't make sense, especially when it doesn't make sense. Now, that's the end of the episode today. This is the Word in Minutes podcast, and I'm your host, Devin Glasgow.